Good morning, friends. I hope you are all doing well. We have some fun outdoor projects to tackle today. I want to pick up some veggie starts and maybe some hanging baskets from a local garden center. Also, I want to give you a full tour of my garden. But before we head outside, I need to thaw tonight's dinner. It's one of the egg crap manicotti that you and I made together last week when we did a ton of high-protein freezer dinners. And I will show you what this looks like after I've baked it up. I'm going to thaw this in the refrigerator, and then we can head out. We are at the berry farm now in Chatham, New York. It's only about 4 minutes from my house. And the berry farm is one of my favorite places to shop, not only for food, but for plants. Let's go check out the veggie starts. I found leeks. You and I planted about 200 onions last week, but I did not plant any leeks from seeds, so I'm getting these starts. And this is King Richard. I have a very old-fashioned method for planting leeks, and it works really well. And I will show you that method when we get home. So we have escarole, sweet corn, red cabbage, green cabbage. Oh, do they have Savoy cabbage? Let me see. No Savoy cabbage. And we have a lot of different varieties of kale, but I don't think I'm going to plant kale this year. Swiss chard, and a lot of lettuce greens. Grab some romaine, red oak leaf lettuce. Also going to grab some of this organic grow all-purpose plant food. Our next stop is a garden center in Kinderhook, New York. We've just arrived at Samascot. It's another local independent nursery. Beautiful begonias here. These are rigger begonias. I love them. Ooh, they have Martha Washington geraniums. This is my favorite variety. I don't know what it's called, but it has a soft pink petal with a deep, like burgundy center. Very beautiful. And look at all of the gorgeous hanging baskets. I'm going to buy 2 of these. I have to have this Calibrachoa simply because I adore the color. I've decided to buy this yellow rigger begonia as a gift for my friends Vicky and Alban. Now I have to see if there's a pot that I can put this begonia in. Ah, this is perfect. Hello, my sweetheart. Hello. Aren't you precious? Aren't you precious? I think you are just wonderful. Yes, you are. Before we do the garden tour, I have some lettuce greens I want to plant. I need to plant the leeks, and I want to suspend these beautiful hanging baskets. As part of my herb garden cleanup last fall, I covered each of the raised beds here with straw. The straw has kept the soil in the beds from becoming compacted. The soil is very easy to dig. One of the great bonuses of having various greens in the garden is that I don't need to visit the supermarket for salad ingredients. Just now, I'm planting romaine, iceberg, and red oak leaf lettuce. This is my first time growing iceberg. Also in this bed are clumps of chives. I will harvest the chives shortly and turn them into the best pesto on earth. Unfortunately, I did not give the kitchen garden beds a blanket of straw over winter, as I had done in the herb garden. Consequently, I need to loosen the soil and add compost before I can plant. Now I'm adding an organic balanced fertilizer to the bed. I want my leeks to be well fed. If you are not familiar with leeks, they have a mild onion flavor that is uniquely their own. I love leeks in soups, stews, gratins, and more. Leeks freeze very well, and you do not have to cook them first. To achieve the desired white or blanched stalk, I use a rake or broom handle to make holes that are 2 inches wide and about 5 inches deep and spaced about 9 inches apart. Then I separate the leek seedlings and drop them individually into the holes. After planting, I fill each hole with water. This causes a small amount of soil to drop into the hole, covering roots but not stems. And here's the beauty of this old-fashioned way of planting leeks. As the seedlings grow, overhead watering, provided either by rain or by a garden hose, will gradually cause the surrounding soil to refill the holes, keeping the lower stem dark and therefore blanched. The blanched part is the most tender and delicious part of a leek. It suddenly got very hot outside. I'm going to cool off, change my shirt, and then we can have what I hope will be a lovely little walkabout. So this house was built in 1826, and when my spouse and I purchased it in 2003, there were no gardens here whatsoever. As a matter of fact, this whole area behind the house was an asphalt parking lot. Around 2004 or 2005, I had all of that asphalt dug up, and I planted a boxwood garden here. And to do that, I bought just enough baby boxwood to create little geometric outlines, and then I took cuttings from the boxwood and used them to fill in the gaps. I can show you an image of this garden when I first created it. I purchased the bricks from a local source, and I purchased the fountains from a company, I think it was in New Mexico. It was an online company, and the fountains are actually made of aluminum. And I love them, but the basin is too small. That was my big design flaw. I made the basin too small for the fountains. So the fountains work, but I don't run them because the water doesn't recirculate like it should. In between the boxwood hedges are David Austin roses. And I don't take the best care of them, but they've still managed to survive over the years. And they're just getting ready to set bud. Now these trees here are crabapple red jade. They are weeping crab apples that someone gave to us as a wedding gift. And you can see the trees are now in full bloom. There are bumblebees buzzing around, and the trees are a year-round source of joy for me. The name red jade comes from the fact that the flowers start out as these little red buds, and then they open into pinkish white flowers. And by taking cuttings from the boxwood, I actually saved a lot of money. Well, I didn't have any money at the time to spend anyway. I just had a vision. I had a dream. I wanted a $1 million garden for, let's just say, a couple of $100s. And scattered throughout this garden are these things. I think they're called tutors. And on most of them, I have clematis growing. Clematis. Heading north, we have some stairs that then lead up a rather steep hill. It looks like I have a roadblock here. We've had some really major winds, so they have knocked off branches from these ancient maple trees on the property. Speaking of which, if you see any tree on this property that is under 100 years old, I planted the tree. Now, under this ancient maple tree is Pachysandra. I also have Pachysandra over here, and some daffodils that are no longer in bloom, and a gorgeous pink bleeding heart. A friend of mine and I built this very shallow staircase going up the hill out of blue stone. He had a little hand truck. We had a delivery of blue stone. We carried it up the hill and just worked on this step by step. A trio of white pines. I put these in. They were just little teeny tiny saplings. Now this tree is called Forest Pansy Redbud. It has beautiful soft purple flowers. A friend of mine was cleaning out his garden and he found several saplings of this redbud type tree, and I dutifully planted them. About 16 years ago, I planted a hedge of arborvitae to screen the swimming pool, and for the first winter ever, deer started eating the arborvitae. That's how ferocious the winter of 2026 was. Here's a view of the back of the house. And now we are back at the kitchen garden, which is the upper food garden. So last year I had drip irrigation installed in all but one of these beds, and boy, has that been a game changer for me. It is so easy to water the plants now. And I do have a lot more planting to do, but it's still rather early in the season. Last week, I planted my potatoes. I planted both Yukon Gold, and another one called Burbank Russet. And I am happy to report that the 50 or so snapdragons that you and I grew together from seed under lights last year actually survived the winter simply because I was too lazy to do fall cleanup. So this snapdragon bed was covered with leaves and it actually insulated the snapdragons. Almost all of them are springing back to life now. I have another 100 or so snapdragons in my grow room in the house, and I'm going to have to find a place for them because I was not counting on having a return visit from last year's snapdragons. So you can see that this was a lavender snapdragon. You can tell the color of snapdragons by looking at the underside of their leaves. And I decided to use one of my raised beds in this garden just for compost. And here are the sweet peas that you and I planted together. What was that, like 3 weeks ago? They seem to be doing just fine. And here again, because I didn't do fall cleanup, I have snapdragons from last year coming up in this bed. Here are the leeks that you and I just planted earlier today. And then I have wonderful lovage over here. If you don't know lovage, it's like celery on steroids. It's absolutely delicious in, things like chicken soup and chicken soups and potato salad. And here is the garlic that you and I planted together last October. It will be ready for harvest probably mid-July. And then I planted a minimum of 100 onions that I grew from seed. So I have yellow, white, and red storage onions. They're in this bed. I have some on the edge of this bed, which is where my San Marzanos will be planted a couple of weeks from now. And check this out. I even have a Brussels sprout that has returned from last summer's garden. So let's head to the Serpentine garden. This is another crabapple tree. It's called Royalty for its purple flowers, and it's in bloom right now. These are Thuja green giants that I planted just from rooted cuttings. They grow 3 to 5 feet every year. I love them. And we've been trimming them back because otherwise they would extend over this whole walkway. And this is the Serpentine garden, so called because it was built on the steepest slope on the property. In fact, it was so steep that the lawnmower person we had hired rolled his tractor down this hill 3 times one summer. And I said, that can't be. So I took that steep slope and I created a very shallow staircase that winds up and up and up. It's actually a very gentle staircase to climb. And I built this with one other person, and I told him I wanted the staircase to be so shallow that I could climb this garden when I'm in my 80s. And we're getting there. Behind me is a hedge of dwarf lilac, and it is budded up, but not yet in bloom. I will have to show you this, probably in mid-May when it's in bloom. It feels so good to sit and rest here, but I want to stand up to show you this crabapple tree. I don't remember the varietal name, but it's got gorgeous white blossoms with a yellow eye. As ground cover, I planted Vinca minor here and here, and it's covered with very pretty periwinkle blue flowers. And we can descend the staircase because I want to show you the little tiny herb garden, also known as the lower garden. This is flowering quince cameo. It has beautiful apricot colored flowers, and they are double flowers, like rosebuds. And the bumblebees are loving them. And here's a little bed with blueberries. I have early, mid, and late season blueberries. And I have some still in bloom, or almost out of bloom, daffodils. And I have a male and a female holly shrub. And you've seen me use that holly in Christmas decorations. This is the old north wing of the house. It's actually even older than the main part of the house. It was built around 1795. And behind us is the music room wing, and over there is the dining room. And in this little area, which was nothing when we bought the house, I created a little tiny garden that I call the herb garden. Carrots in this bed, which you and I planted together a couple of weeks ago. I don't have anything planted in this bed just yet. Here we have chives, plus the salad greens that you and I planted earlier today. These are the snapdragons that you and I planted together last winter and that I grew under lights. And they're just out here soaking up some sun and hardening off. And as I mentioned earlier, I will have to find a place to plant them. I love snapdragons. It's one of my favorite flowers for flower arrangements. Here are the supertunias that we purchased earlier today. And I think it was money well spent because they do bring me a lot of joy. And then over here, I have a climbing rose. It's a thornless climber. I think the name is Zephyrin, well, Zephyrin something or other. And here is the climbing rose. I recently had it pruned, and I will have to show you this again in late May when it is covered in very fragrant pink flowers. So we will have to do another garden tour. In fact, in the comments below, let me know if you'd like to see a monthly garden tour just to see the progress on the place. I don't know about you, but I'm getting hungry. I need to put that egg crepe manicotti in the oven. My spouse and I adored this keto-friendly manicotti. I hope you will give it a try someday. Thank you so much for joining me today as we tackled some important garden projects and we enjoyed a peaceful walk in the garden. If you enjoyed today's video, please give it a thumbs up. If you are new, please consider subscribing. And if you know anyone who would enjoy this video, I hope you will share it with them. I'll be back with another video on Sunday, and until then, please treat yourself very, very well. I can't wait to see you again. Bye for now, friends.